GOATs. Depending on every generation out there, there's bound to be millions of takes on who people would consider as their GOAT. If you watch the NBA during the 1980s era of basketball, chances are that Michael Jordan is your GOAT. If you watch the NBA during the 2010s and 2020s era of basketball, chances are that LeBron's your GOAT. Mix Canadian cartoons into the mix, and that's where things get a little complicated. You expect me to name one, let alone choosing between four, among the wide category of shows that Canada has produced. I mean, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon, they have the easiest big three I can think of right off the back of my hand. But if we're talking Canadian cartoons, that's where I actually gotta sit down, have an entire math evaluation going on in my brain to figuring out what is the four horsemen of Canadian cartoons. Shoot, even in my childhood, my core four consisted of Slugterra, Ninjago, Total Drama, and Detentionaire. And to this day, that list still does not sit right in my head. Like, my core four is constantly shuffling depending on my mood. But if I were to choose the undisputed core four based on their biggest downfall, shows that lasted longer than the typical 2 seasons with 26 episodes targeted towards teens, and something we'll probably never see again, at least in this time. For greatness that rose so high yet fell so low. After some heavy evaluations, the core four I decided to come up with was Total Drama, 16, Detentionaire, and Clone High. Whether it's on or off the air, all 4 of these shows have peaked at some point, yet has gone down a downward spiral ever since. What led to all of these shows getting the final nail to the coffin of no return? Well, that's gonna be today's deep dive. What really happened to the biggest Canadian cartoons? I think it's best that we start with the biggest household name up here in Total Drama. Despite the Canadian cartoon airing over 18 years ago, although the community has slowed down in its traction, it is still strong and active to this day. A big house franchise that is so big that you have content creators and video game developers being able to create their own series and their own types of games.
I will be doing in the future a Total Drama Island 5 for streamers. I'm not confirming or denying anything, but a lot of things are being talked about and I'm seeing it.
A big house franchise so big that you got people singing songs from Total Drama World Tour bar for bar. Total Drama was just the instant classic with their big 3 seasons of Island, Action, and World Tour, even though Action is the best season on the big 3 in my opinion. But how did such a universally acclaimed series fall off so hard after the first 3 seasons? I am still gonna defend that Revenge of the Island is a good season. But at the same time, with the OG cast basically reaching their departure, the entire season consisting of 13 episodes instead of the usual 26, which was the main episode count for every Total Drama season after World Tour, with the exception of the Redonkulous race. One of the biggest issues I can get out of every single season was the pacing. Even though every new generation came with a smaller amount of competitors, one of the biggest issues was really fleshing out your characters and giving them proper development. Especially when you had Total Drama Action and World Tour having a smaller cast pool, yet still held 26 episodes, while still holding major plot points. And if you weren't really a fan of the non-elimination episodes, then you at least have to give Revenge of the Island a pass because it technically did follow Total Drama Island's original format, every episode being an elimination and had suspense. In the mid-late 2010s, I truly believe All-Stars, Pocketail Island, and Total Drama Rama did irreversible damage. Pocketail Island just felt like all the craziness that made Total Drama, all contested into one and just felt lackluster in the final product. It's like they took out the majority of the character building and character dynamics that made it a reality TV show in the first place. Outside of Sean, Jasmine, and Sky, who I'm still not a fan of, and Ella, who was really an unintentional rage baiter with her singing, Cocktail Island was just not good. And then he had the first half of Total Drama All-Stars for season 5, where you could have had one of the best generational runs in history. In theory, All-Stars could have been a top 3 season of all time if their contestant pool was at least 20 competitors, or at least any writing that's better than curing MPD with the push of a button. I mean, like, what are we doing? And then you have Total Drama Rama, which at that point, they're just trying anything to see what would stick. And believe me when I say I cannot stand when networks decide to age down these characters to what will be toddlers as a teeny version. Like, in what way does that work well? In what shows does that work well? And if you say Teen Titans Go, I swear. Fortunately, there's been a lot of fan-made projects that have been made recently, like Disadventure Camp. But back in the early 2020s, oh my god, that was a long time. One of the biggest fan projects that was getting developed was Total Drama Reunion, created by Blue Studios, that brought a lot of traction, and honestly, some of the biggest traction I've ever seen from a fan-made project that goes over the story of Total Drama characters in their adult years. I mean, at the time the first episode launched, it gained so many views within a short time span that it was trending at some point. It was really one of those moments where you had to be there to see the hype build up. Then it got taken down by Fresh TV, sending out a cease and desist to shut down the entire project altogether. I mean, imagine having hype for the entire series for months, just for it to go out within a couple of days. Like, this was the Total Drama community's Aaron Rodgers' New York Jets debut. One of the worst attacks on their city since... Know what I'm saying? Even though Fresh TV did own all the rights to Total Drama, but still, to know that the community yearns for another season of the OG cast and that this special managed to get more traction than your kid version spinoff, you know somebody within that production team was that mad they didn't think of that idea. To have this series grow along with its audience. Oddly, after all this, they did officially announce 2 new seasons of Total Drama, and this really made it a make or break it move that can either end or save the franchise. Fortunately, the creators of Total Drama went back to their roots with a remastered Total Drama Island, but with another generation of contestants. And after watching both seasons, it was a lot better than expected. The only knocks I have on both seasons was the release date, with the entirety of Season 1 leaking on YouTube and Season 2 leaking across Reddit and Discord a year later. Tied that to lack of marketing for the series in the US, that's already a huge knockoff to the millions of OG fans. I mean, the US has one of the biggest markets. Whether it was airing on cable or streaming, if the numbers don't do well, there is no worse way to say it, it's GG's. My second knock that I have was the voice change for Chris McClane. I got used to the second actor probably because he was the same guy that voiced Jonesy from 16, but there was also a lot of allegations on the voice actor Christian Potenza, the voice actor for Chris McClane, that were revealed to be false according to some of the podcast videos that I've seen. The actor has also spoke out about how he didn't want to be associated with Chris McClane because of how sadistic his personality became in later seasons. Which in all honesty, I can respect considering Chris McClane's track record. But take away the allegations, there's still some mixed feelings when Fresh TV got him to release a PR response video to the Total Drama Reunion shutdown, where he called it a project being made under a basement.
It blew up. Now there's a difference between fan art and full-on production. What you did was a full-on production. It was given to me in my inbox, my daily tsunami of fan art that is given to me, and yes, but it's not as easy as you think, guys. Just because you can make a cartoon in your basement with a couple of friends.
I completely get the message he was trying to send across, but yeah, the fan-made project was a little too close to looking like the real thing. But that is still gonna hold a major factor into what backed Total Drama into a corner. Do I feel bad? Yeah, but with how management has been moving lately, is the hate and backlash coming from the fans warranted? Absolutely. Now, I do want to point out that Season 3 was never planned from the jump, and there was only supposed to be 2 seasons of Total Drama, and depending on how popular that went, it could have got renewed for a Season 3, but there hasn't been any announcements or production of that whatsoever. Or any announcements from Fresh TV, for all we know. Another popular Canadian cartoon that fell under Fresh TV was 16. Before Total Drama was even the thing, 16 was the face of Canadian cartoons. Airing from 2004 to 2010, 16 has consistently cracked 2.5 million views in Canada and 1.8 million in the US per episode, with its peak reaching 3.7 million in 2009, the same year Total Drama Action was released. Even though the show declined 1 year later, hitting 1.6 million views during its series finale, I don't know whether it is just me, but to have that much of a crazy feat for that long, in all honesty, Total Drama might be Michael Jordan while 16 is Scottie Pippen, if that's the best analogy to put it. For such a simple premise revolving around a group of teenagers with part-time jobs that hang out at the mall, 16 was way ahead of its time when it comes to terms of comedy, personal growth, relationships in teenager lives. I will say the best part about 16 is how, unlike Total Drama, it actually tackles on some serious topics that the audience can relate to. At one point of our lives, we've all met at least one person who was the parent of the group that gave a lot of advice. The reserved and rebellious introvert that run things their own way. That one friend that cannot keep a job for a week. And a Valley Prep girl. Just to put that out there. Ever since 16 aired its finale back in 2010, the only new forms of content that we have gotten from the series was the 2018 special, Vote Dude. And Jude being a character in Total Drama's spin-off series, Total Drama-Rama. But what if I told you that 16 was initially planning to get a revival? From the leaks I have seen online, there was actually a 16 short that was worked on in 2019, which featured all the original characters from the original series with some new redesigns, and produced by Fresh TV. When I first saw it, I thought originally this was some fan project, but with the huge improvement on the animation and the OG voice actors reprising their roles.
Dudes and dudettes, an escalator rail crime coming at
How are we only finding out about this 6 years later? Now, I came to two conclusions as to why 16 never gave an official announcement on whether it was going to get a revival. The first reason is the timing. The short was made in 2019, which was right before COVID hit. Although it's not confirmed that to be the official reason, maybe the execs thought that it was probably best to scrap the project and jump ship. My second possible reason as to why 16 never got picked up for a revival was still the timing and the target audience. 16 is honestly a capsule series of teenagers in the early 2000s, and that was really the last hurrah of the mall culture. You look at the target audience from back then compared to the audience now, the difference is like night and day. With newer technology and online shopping being a major thing in today's market, the teen mall culture has just died down, dipping over 30% in the last decade. Shoot, even when I was a teenager, when I had my own car, I was able to drive to school. The only cases where I actually went to the mall was either to have an appointment at the eye doctor at VisionWorks or to watch a movie with my peers. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on what happened behind closed doors. It still sucks that we're not in one of the timelines where 16 would have gotten a reboot. Such a horrible fate. To my US viewers, Detentionaire is probably the most unknown show that's up here, yet is the most deserving of a revival. Now, the show revolves around this dystopian world where this 10th grader, Li Ping, gets accused of a school prank on the first day of school and gets sentenced to 1 year in detention. So every day, he sneaks out of detention to collect clues and find the person who orchestrated the entire school-wide prank. Going into this, my mind was set on Gravity Falls being the definition of a mystery box show. But after watching Detentionaire for the first time, it checked off every single box. This series was packed with lore, well thought out writing for every single episode, and ran for 4 seasons with 50 episodes. I mean, to think it started out with a teen escaping detention every single day, to escaping underground routes and tunnels over some Illuminati stuff that ties deep into his family's history. And in all honesty, bro, I did not start watching this series since it was like my late teens. For someone's childhood that grew up breathing in many Canadian cartoons, I have not seen a single media that related to this series once. Before some Gravity Falls fans said this is just a cheap knockoff, this came out before Gravity Falls was even conceived. Okay, maybe not, but it was already out before Gravity Falls aired in the US in 2012. And like most Gravity Falls episodes in today's time, all the episodes are available to watch on YouTube for free. Yeah, to the 93% of consumers that don't pay for streaming, this is a good one. How could the ratings in Detentionaire be so high, yet the popularity is so low? How could a show that was a huge hit in Canada and Australia fail in the US? Ratings that were so absent in the US to where it felt like an industry plant, or at least an industry plant designed to take out the series before it reached its popularity. To give you the short to-answer response, Cartoon Network. Despite there being potential plans for future seasons after Detentionaire's season 4 cliffhanger finale, the series was banking on getting good ratings in the US in order for the series to keep going. But given the US market's track record, it was bound to be the final dagger. When I say the distribution of this series was bad, that is me sugarcoating. It was horrendous. Cartoon Network, the same people that are behind the yellow wall, gave zero promotions, promos, ads, nothing to put the show into its American audience. Marketing that was so weak that you have people that found out about the series on Reddit. I had to do some digging and I found an archive post that shows all the Detentionaire episodes completely out of order on Cartoon Network's website. Alright, so the first episode that pops up, okay, this is Enigma, something. Okay, pretty solid first episode. This is Season 2, Episode 8. The very first thing you see on this page, this is Season 2, Episode 8. The very next episode that comes right under is the actual first episode of the series premiere, Season 1, Episode 1. And it just gets better, because the episode that is right under the series premiere is the Season 1 finale. Like, why is the series premiere right before the finale? Mind you, some idiot decided to put these out of order. Like, there is no way you can tell me that this was a business decision. There's just no way. This has been an inside job. Because what person can reasonably defend deciding to release the entire series on an already declining low traffic website, a low traffic website that has been shut down as of today, releasing every episode out of order and expect the audience to just somehow figure out the full context of what's going on? Not to mention, some of the episodes were censored for no reason. And here I thought shows like Mao Mao and Infinity Train were taken out right out back. Like, there is no other answer to say this decision was stupid. Just downright stupid. Like, what was the point of picking up a series just to not use it on your own network? And this was before Teen Titans Go was even aired, so don't even use that excuse. And during this time, Cartoon Network's schedule was at a mediocrity for trying to figure out the next best thing. I mean, Adventure Time and regular show was already a big risk already, just to compete with Disney and Nickelodeon. When those two shows were just starting out, I mean, these guys were struggling. When they decide to acquire a series produced from the country right next door, created 16 in Total Drama, who was finishing up with World Tour, and that have done relatively well internationally. They offered a third series on a silver platter. What do? Bought it out back and smoked it out like it was Old Yeller. You know, it's so funny to hear people defend or feel bad for Cartoon Network's current state, but when the people behind the channel make dumb decisions like this, they got no one but to blame themselves for digging their own grave. A mystery series that couldn't compete with the one thing Disney had over Cartoon Network. They literally brought this upon themselves. One upside I will give the finale for, despite the cliffhanger, the series did open itself up for possibilities on a potential revival should the series ever return for a season 5. I'm just praying if this were to happen, it doesn't go out like Clone High, the one series that faced double the amount of cliffhangers in its entire run. The series that really jump-started the Canadian cartoon era pioneered by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Before the Spider-Verse trilogy, before the Lego movie, before Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, before Earl and JFK memes.
Can stay up all night long. I accentuated the up and also the long for what I hope are obvious reasons. So let's get back together and bone up on the BXJTs!
And shoot, even before Total Drama, this was the beginning of the 2000s art style. Clone High revolves around teenagers that are actual clones of historical figures created and ran by one of the best scientists as their principal and Principal Scudworth. Yeah, I kid you not, he is up there with one of the GOATs. When I tell you this series is such an amazing parody to teen dramas, from its jokes to its overall tone and witty liners that makes its comedy on point every single time.
Joan, I haven't gotten a single high five since I've been in here. Could you give me a few under the table? Everyone else is getting them.
Nearly every episode felt like it hit a home runner. I mean, season 1 was just so goated. Not to mention, it was way ahead of its time. Thank goodness that we had the internet to bring that back for a revival, just for its crash and burn. Now, despite the late critical acclaim, the show was cancelled after season 1 due to the interpretation of Gandhi and Indian culture, along with the low ratings at the time it aired, which, yes, I will admit, it is reasonable at the time why it was cancelled.
Oh, wow, I need a minute to think about this.
I mean, they were running more risk than receiving rewards, if that's the best way to put it. But to get a return for 2 seasons just to end the same way you did over 20 years ago, to get axed on a cliffhanger for the second time, not 1, but 2 times. I mean, you genuinely can't make this up. How did this happen? With what I collected, the show honestly sold itself for creating something entirely different from the original, which, yes, it is a long way of saying I hate change. What I mean is how it became the series that the premise of Clone High was making fun of. I mean, why did it go from making fun of teen dramas to becoming a teen drama in the revival? Thank goodness Scudworth and Mr. B comedy remained fresh, because that was the only thing that remained constant. Now, I still see why they decided to remove Gandhi from the lineup for seasons 2 and 3, but with how the media has changed over the years, it is really hard to get behind that type of reasoning. And what I mean by hard to get behind, handpick a season from South Park, any season, and tell me if that is better than how Clone High betrayed Gandhi. Shoot, even the content that's releasing on IG Reels remains unhinged regardless of the audience and the group you're targeting. To the people that believe the Gandhi depiction was bad during its time, if they came to this era of the media now, man, pitchforks would have been thrown after getting a minute on IG or Twitter. All chaos would have broke loose. But at the same time, chaos would have still broken loose because of Gandhi getting removed from the lineup. Majority of punches that they pulled lost them 80% of their older fan base. Even though the fan base was relatively small, majority of the jokes that trended on social media was from season 1, so why would they have to try and bank on the modern audience? You had the material that they loved, just use that and capitalize off of that. Why not banking off of your original comedy instead of managing to screw both old and newer fans? And finally, the marketing for both seasons overall was just not that great. At least with season 2, they aired the episodes weekly, but when they aired season 3, they aired all the episodes at once. And when they air all the episodes, that's how you know it's getting axed. And for someone that averages 12 to 13 hours of technology daily, I have never seen any ads, marketing, promos, or trailers for season 3. When a series pulls this type of move, 9 times out of 10, they're getting canned. But that At the end of the day, all 4 of these shows not only left their mark on Canadian cartoon history, but managed to go beyond and resonate with fans in ways networks would probably never expect, manage, and in some cases influence how teen-oriented animation was handled for an entire decade. But despite their impact, all 4 of these shows fall under the same umbrella: mishandled, underpromoted, or given a premature send-off. We might never get all the answers into why all these shows ended, but if there's one thing the internet has taught us, it is that fan bases never really let the greats fade into lost media. Whether it's through memes, behind-the-scene productions, or nostalgia watching the entire series, even though the undisputed core four may never run side by side again in their primes, if the stars were to ever align, who knows, maybe we'll get some of these Canadian icons to take another victory lap. But for the time being, the Go cartoon debates aren't slowing down anytime soon. But that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. Feel free to comment down on your core 4 Canadian cartoon shows, or just your core 4 cartoons in general. Be sure to leave a like and sub to the channel, and follow me on all my social media pages down below, where I post content every week. This is Chyller, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.